welcome back to another kitchen table wargaming battle report. This is a 2,000 point game between the Grey Knights, the Sons of Titan, and the Ynnari. Technically Ynnari. We do have about half of the list that's Coven, but not quite half, so it is still a Ynnari list with the Incarn over here leading up that patrol. The deployment zones have been selected. The Drukhari won the roll-off, but have decided to let the Grey Knights go first. Could be a mistake, don't know. Playing battle lines today, so there's 4 objective markers. And then there's the last one is right over there. And you have your deep deployment zones. So these are, they're actually pretty healthy sized deployment zones. Kind of fun. Not very often you get to play this. The objectives, you hold 1 for 5, hold 2 for 10, and hold more than your opponent for 15. And we're about to have the Grey Knights start off with their movement, and gonna see what happens. The Ynnari Drukhari are hoping that the Grey Knights movement will open up some weaknesses and make it easier for them to jump in and exploit some things. That would be the plan for letting them go first. That and the ranged weapons are all pretty far out of range. Even with movement, the Grey Knights wouldn't get there except with the use of Gate of Infinity, and that would only be 1 squad. The Drukhari think they can weather that storm pretty well. We'll find out. We'll come back at the end of Grey Knight's turn 1 and see what happens. All right, on this particular glorious day for Eldar, we're going to be running essentially a Ynnari list, but only Ynnari by about 4 points. So it's almost half Coven and half Ynnari. On the right-hand side, we have 2 5-man squads of Incubi. We have an Archon. We have 5 Kabalite Warriors, 1 Blaster in there. We have a Lamian. This I know is an old old homunculus model, but I'm gonna count as a Lamian for the purposes of the game. 2 Venoms, 2 Ravagers, triple disintegrator cannons, and the Incarn. Then you also see Drazar, who is the Warlord. He's running with the Coven pack because he doesn't actually take up a specific HQ slot in there. Well, he does. Sorry. He doesn't become Coven. He's just his own man, kind of like the Incarn, just pops into the unit. Although Drazar does not give the Coven any special keywords. So you have a homunculus with them as well. He has the Vexator mask. You got a 5-man squad of Rax. You have 5 Scourge with Heat Lances. We have 2 Raiders with Disintegrator Cannons, 3 Talos, all with the Haywire Blasters. And that rounds out the list at an exact and precise 2,000 points. 2 patrols, so we'll start off with a whole 9 CP for this game. And that is it. The Archon does have, let me see, I think I spent another, so I might only have 8 CP because I believe that the Archon starts off also with the Warlord trait from Ynnari. He has the Walker of Lost Paths, where he can regen a command point on a 5-up that is spent, and he also has the Hungering Blade relic that is a Ynnari specific relic. So there we go. We have just slightly more points of Ynnari than we do of Drukhari generic, I guess you could say. So it's a Ynnari list. Took this list out against the Ultramarines recently, and that game went very well in favor of the Drukhari Ynnari. So we're running it again today, but this time we're going to face it off against a pretty powerful Grey Knights list. So the psychic trickerations of the Incarn won't have a lot of impact in this game, potentially. So we'll see. Very curious, going to try to play this list against a variety of different armies in the near future, but I'm pretty happy with this list. I'm going to try to keep it as is. And we'll kind of see throughout the channel how it plays out and how well it does. So there you go. There's Ynnari, 2 patrols, 2,000 points on the nose. And yeah, running the Incarn. We'll see how it all goes. Here is the Grey Knights list for this game. This is also going to be exactly 2,000 points. Happens to be 1 battalion. Trying out something a little new. Haven't played this list in 9th edition yet. So we have 2 10-man Paladin squads. I did hear about this from a buddy that played a recent RTT, and this list did him a bit of hurt. So I figured I'd give it a whirl. We have the two 10-man paladin squads. This side, the more golden boys have the silencers equipped and a variety of nemesis weapons. This squad is the silver paladin squad. We have 4 side cannons here and mostly halberds, a couple of falchions. Then we have 3 5-man strike squads. The left and the right squads are just bare bones sword bolters and halberds, and the middle squad has a mixture of nemesis, staves, halberd, falchion, and a silencer. For the HQ slots, the apothecary's there. You have the librarian, as is. He has the combi melta, the what do you call it on the librarian? The warding stave. You got Voldus on the left, and you have the Grandmaster in the middle. The Grandmaster is the warlord for this game, so he's going to have first to the fray. Pretty basic loadouts as far as the psychic powers are concerned. All the strike squads, the 2 bare bone strike squads have Gate of Infinity. The central one has Astral Aim. Both paladin squads have Hammerhand on them. The apothecary is warp changing. The librarian has the CP regen spell, as well as one that I don't remember off the top of my head. Voldus has all of the buffing spells that I like to use with the paladins. Armored Resilience, the Ethereal Manipulation, and he might also have Warp Shaping just to kind of double up on that one. I don't change the tides too often with my Grey Knights lists, but it is good to keep it in your pocket. And then the Grandmaster in Dread Knight armor has Sanctuary. There you have it. That is 2,000 points on the nose of Grey Knights. We're going to be facing off against this Ynnari list. In the past, recently I should say, in the past few games, the Drukhari have beat the Grey Knights. Except for the one experiment of a pure Ynnari list, that did not go well. So this list is a different list for the Grey Knights, different list for the Ynnari. We'll see how this one fares. Not sure how this one will play out, but I'm pretty excited about it. End of the turn for the Grey Knights, turn 1. This blob of paladins moved up, have astral aim so they can see through everything. They also have Ethereal Manipulation to reroll all failed hits in half range, and Armored Resilience to get them harder to hurt because they're out and exposed. The goal here being to pressure the center of the board. It's a lot of shooting come in their direction if they get close. You also have Voldus right there to reroll 1s. You have the Librarian here who casts Empyrean Domination. Got a CP back. We also spent the CP for Empyric Surge to make sure that all the buffs went off for this group. This squad, the one dude moved around, be within 3 of that, and cast Astral Aim onto that front Paladin squad. The Paladins back here use the Gate of Infinity from these guys who are under the roof, but their halberds are a little too tall. This Paladin bomb jumped up here and spent a lot of CP, got a lot of different things off. Hammerhand went off, spent the CP for Fury of the Proven to make their hit rolls better. Counteract the moving penalty, then Bring Down the Beast and use that to shoot the Talos, which they could see the back half of a Talos around that building. Killed the Talos with the silencer shots, and actually 1.5. The second Talos is on 2 wounds remaining, so it really did the work on the Talos unit, which bodes well for the Grey Knights. Then Cybold ammunition was used on the other Stormbolters. Well, we spent 1 Stormbolter to shoot the Talos. Then did Fury of the Proven. Bring Down the Beast. It was a lot. So then the Stormbolters that were remaining shot and killed the Venom. It exploded, and 1 Incubi died getting out. Well, it didn't explode. It was out of range to do any damage anyways. But 1 guy died getting out of the Venom. So 2 points for Bring It Down. This Paladin squad decided to stay back a little bit to challenge this objective instead of deep striking all the way down here and then being potentially charged by the Incarn, the Talos, and the Incubi. So they're not engaging on all fronts, but they're close enough to do some work far enough away to make the enemy come to them, and hopefully that pays off. It's about to become the Ynnari turn 2. Alright, so the end of the Ynnari turn 1, this Venom scooted forward to get to hold that objective there. Took some shots off here. There's also a 5-man squad of Incubi inside, so they probably will be doing something in the next turn if they're still alive. This is very danger close to a big blob of Paladins. However, gotta start somewhere. The Ravagers popped up over here. The Archon disembarked from the Raider and climbed the steps so he could not be the closest and sniped out by an enemy that'll be probably teleporting in. Cavalite Warriors stayed in this boat with a Lamian as well, and they're holding that objective in the back. On this side, the Homunculus got out to give some needed strength to the Talos. The Racks got out so they could start deploying Scramblers. Incarn stayed still, and the Incubi over here, well, what happened was this Raider moved over here after everybody got out, or after those folks got out. Drazar stayed inside. Picked up the squad of Incubi here, shot at this Paladin squad, and then fire and faded back to behind the building out of line of sight. Everything over here also fired into this 10-man squad over on this side of the board and killed 2 Paladins and left 1 on 1 wound, but did force the Grey Knights to have to spend another 2 CP for redoubtable defense. So at the end of turn 1, or battle round 1, the Grey Knights are down to 4 command points. 4 command points left. The Drukhari are down, Ynnari Drukhari down to 6. So a lot of command points were spent. Lots of positioning, preparation for turn 2. Nobody got engaged on all fronts in the first turn, which is interesting. Both these armies are typically very mobile. The Ynnari trying to bait the Grey Knights in, bring them into a death trap, and after losing a Talos and a half on the first turn, they're kind of playing it a little cautiously in this game. So we'll come back after Grey Knight's turn 2 and see what is left. End of turn 2 for the Grey Knights. Shuffled around back here, gave the Librarian Astral Aim so that he could do some shooting, because the penalty for shooting at something you can't hit as easily, like a Venom, wasn't going to affect him nearly as much as the, not Purgation Squad, the Strike Squad. But the Paladins with the Stormbolters took care of the Venom. The Psy Cannons took care of 1 Ravager. The Grandmaster took care of another Ravager. The Incarn decided to pop up where the Venom had been. It was just far enough away to make it hard for the Paladins to charge it. They did try and they did fail, and there was already CP spent for Fury of the Proven for them to be able to hit better for their shooting turn, so that didn't seem like a thing to spend command points on. Then over here, these guys actually did the finishing wound. The 1 Stormbolter finished off a 2 wound Ravager. That was pretty funny and epic. And then back here, Mr. Grandmaster Dread Knight took 1 of the Ravagers all the way down to 2 and then let the other guys finish it off. But he is now too far away to make a charge into the Archon. So he's just kind of stuck in the corner. However, with all of the movements and things that were done, the Grey Knights are engaged in all 4 corners of the board, so they get 3 for engage on all fronts. The Apothecary came down over here with the Paladins and got the points for mental interrogation this turn. And so the Grey Knights did a bit of damage there. So the big guns are done now for the Drukhari. They're gonna have to rely on Incubi, Drazar, Incarn, and then some Talos to get into the fight and start doing some work in turn 2. So we'll see what happens with the Ynnari / Drukhari force coming up in turn 2. End of the Ynnari turn. Black Cornucopians was used by these racks to try to get the deploy scramblers done. They did 1 in their deployment zone, 1 here. Next turn, they'll be able to do 1 over there if they're still alive. The Incubi here charged in. The Incarn popped over here where the Venom disappeared from. They made the charges. The poor little Incubi got overwatched, and all but 1 of them died. He valiantly made his charge and did 2 wounds on a Paladin. The Incarn did a few wounds on the Apothecary, but his Cuirass of Sacrifice saved him, so he still has 3 wounds left. Over here, the Incubi and Drazar charged in. Drazar is now dead. A lot of Paladins died. They did not fail morale. All but 1 Incubi died. When Drazar died, the Incarn left combat over here with the Apothecary and came over here because it's much more likely to survive here than he would have, or it would have, over here. Back here, shooting all happened. Took 4 wounds off of the Dread Knight. The Scourge popped back behind there with Fire and Fade after they shot at the Dread Knight to just keep him from getting any simple charges off in the next turn. And that's about it. It is starting to look pretty grim. Paladins are still alive. Paladins are still alive. There's another strike squad in Deep Strike. Grandmaster Dread Knight's going to come do a little bit more work in this turn. So I feel like the Grey Knights have the upper hand at this point. This is going to be the end of turn 2, starting turn 3. But I'm pretty sure the writing's on the wall. Points-wise, the Grey Knights are already up from secondaries. It'll be interesting. 1 giant blob of Paladins still on the board is going to be problematic because the Racks will probably die before they finish scrambling. There's only 1 more infantry unit left that could pull it off, and it's that Incubi back there, but he'd have to survive. Still got some units back here, but they'd have to move across the board, so it's very interesting. Not sure. There are some plays, but it's going to hope and depend on the Grey Knights whiffing a lot in this turn 3. So we'll be back at the end of turn 3 and find out what's going on. Alright, so the Grey Knight's turn is over, turn 3. These guys deep struck in over here. Astral Aim was cast by this strike squad on themselves, and they were in range to shoot the Racks, so they actually killed the Racks. Well, they left 2 in the Paladin squad, took care of those. Paladins also helped clear the Scourge out, almost cleared off the Raider. The Grandmaster had to finish off the Raider. Everybody kind of just moved forward a bit to get line of sight over here, and that was all they did. Those guys scooted out of the bunker to the edge of their hill to be within 12 inches of the Paladins over here, and used Gate of Infinity to jump the Paladins out of combat and around the corner. That's our version of fall back and charge for a Grey Knights player. Or fall back, shoot, and charge, whatever. But they were far enough away that after killing the Incubi, there was no charging left to be done. Put a couple shots on the Incarn, took 2 wounds off of it. When this Raider died, 3 of the Cavalry Warriors died on the way out, so that was embarrassing for them. There's 2 left. They did not fail the morale, though, so they're in a little cluster here. Everybody piled out 12 inches away from the Grandmaster Dread Knight. The Dread Knight also finished off this wounded Talos that was over here, and was 10 and some inches away, failed the charge twice, even with re-rolling the charge. So, end of the turn, engaged on all fronts, and there's a lot of Grey Knights left. No unit has actually died yet for the Grey Knights, which shows that the Drukhari Ynnari list probably should have taken first turn. I'm thinking maybe that would have made a difference in getting board control first instead of trying to sucker the Grey Knights out. Hard to say. There's not a lot left. We'll go ahead and we're gonna play turn 3 for the Drukhari Ynnari list and see if they can't get a character or 2. A few more points in secondaries, and then probably going to call the game at the end of turn 3. We'll be back after the Ynnari turn 3 with a summary. The end of the turn for the Ynnari / Drukhari was interesting. Raider came up, shot, along with the Incarn, who was there, moved over here, looking at the Apothecary, did nothing in the psychic phase or shooting phase. And over here, everybody moved in, took shots with blasters and blast pistols, haywire, and knocked the Dread Knight down to 4 wounds remaining. And then they all charged, and in combat, the Lamian, the Homunculus, and the Talos finished off the Dread Knight. The Archon didn't even get to swing his Hungering Blade, and the Incarn is here now because it took the place of the Dread Knight in order to stay alive longer. But the Incarn did the business, jumped down or charged into the Apothecary, who was here, made that charge easily. Voldus was there, easily within heroic intervention range, so he heroically intervened. The Incarn, with its 6 attacks, split the attacks, 3 on each, and destroyed both Voldus and the Apothecary. Pretty epic. So the Incarn suffered a whole 2 wounds so far this game, and managed to kill Voldus and the Apothecary in 1 turn of combat, and then popped up over here when the Dread Knight died. I know I described that out of sequence, but in order, that's how it went. So the Grey Knights lost 3 of their 4 characters in 1 turn. It was rather sudden, but the Grey Knights army is still almost completely intact aside from those characters. And so at this point, the Ynnari / Drukhari are still down by 10, and the Grey Knights are going to be able to hold all of the objectives in this turn. Well, maybe not all yet. Still have to get rid of those guys. But there's no way for the Ynnari to get the deploy scramblers completed. They still had to get 1 in this deployment zone, and that's not possible now. And the Grey Knights will easily knock down that Raider, probably pretty easily kill the Talos in shooting, get rid of all the rest of the troops, and by the end of turn 4, there's just not going to be anything left for the Ynnari, so there would be no way to come back in the score. So calling the game here at the end of turn 3, 51-41 to Grey Knights. Very interesting game. Some of the Ynnari units / Drukhari units that I expected to last longer in this matchup were done really early on. The Grey Knights shooting phase in turn 1 was rather spectacular. And turn 2, I guess. Turn 1 and turn 2 shooting phases really kind of did the business. The rest of the game was interesting to see how it all played out, and I think a little bit more practice with this Ynnari list and matching up against an army that's not psychic and able to move around the board would definitely help, because as we saw, or you may or may not have seen, with the same exact Ynnari Drukhari list versus the new Ultramarines, the Ynnari won pretty handily, but that army was much more static, not nearly as mobile. So this Grey Knights list was able to really kind of spread out the Drukhari Ynnari list and make them engage in a lot of places, and that just did not play to the strength of the Ynnari list. So that's the end of the game. It's been a lot of fun. We will get this all summarized, wrapped up neat, put a bow on it, and hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know your thoughts. I really liked the Grey Knights list quite a lot. Pretty different from what I have been playing. I was only actually changing out 2 different units, but it just played very different and felt very different. So it was a pretty fun list to try out and give it a test run. Yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.